Welcome to the Phonological Awareness Review. So we are going to take all the information we learned in the last couple of PowerPoint presentations and test our knowledge to see how much we actually understood from what we've read from Chapter 4, if we are reading from the book, or what we've heard and understood from my presentations, if we were simply going by these PowerPoints. So we're going to test your comprehension, and we're also going to put what you've learned into practice. Phonological awareness, again, is all about being able to use and recognize the phonemes we are hearing or the phonemes we're about to use. Understanding mostly phoneme combinations. Phonemes, which are often seen in my presentations and in the book as bricks, the beginning units of sound that help to build walls, and our walls are our phoneme combinations. They consist of vowel sounds or consonant sounds. We build these walls, put them together to create syllables. Syllables are like the word room inside the word itself, which will be often represented in the little apartment analogy as the apartment. From words, of course, we move on to make sentences or questions, instructions or directions, paragraphs, speeches, whatever we want to share as a message or meaning for others. This process of going from the phoneme to the entire message or meaning, from going to the brick to the entire apartment building, is called encoding. When we want to get the phonemes out of what we're hearing, we go through a process of decoding. And decoding is looking at the entire message, breaking it down into its sentences and questions, instructions, whatever, and from there finding the word. What we're focusing on in All About the Sound is the word and word work. So we're taking it down to the word level and breaking the word down into word parts or word rooms. From there, we find the phoneme combinations that we are hearing. And from there, we break it down even further to the phoneme. This entire process is called decoding. So we are encoding and decoding. In Chapter 4, Phonological Awareness, we focused a lot on the syllable or word part. Some words only have one syllable. They are one-syllable words. And when a word only has one syllable, we can approach it in two ways. We can use something called onset and rhyme, or we can use the beginning, middle, and ending approach. Onset are the beginning consonants that begin a syllable, just the consonant sounds. Rhyme is the vowel sound and the ending consonant sounds. Every syllable must have a vowel in order to be a vowel, but it does not have to have a consonant. So some of those one-syllable words or some of our syllables will be open. They will begin with a vowel or end with a vowel sound. It gets a little complicated, but you've done wonderful to keep up with me so far. So if you ever need to go back to any of the previous PowerPoint presentations, please do so. And I'm going to test your knowledge now just a bit. It's always good to challenge ourselves when we are learning. A tiny bit of anxiety when we're learning is very good for the mind, and it helps us to remember and process and learn. So we're going to move on now. We're going to move on to understanding and testing what we've learned so far from phonological awareness. So as I've said, and I will continue to say, don't be afraid to make mistakes as you learn. If you're not making any mistakes, it is a sure sign you are playing it safe. By John Maxwell. So don't play it safe. Practice, practice, practice. And you'll gain more support in your learning from others than you ever will criticism or frustration. So please don't be afraid to try. So let's begin with testing your comprehension. What you were learning about the material itself, what you were able to understand from what you read and from what you heard me lecturing about in these PowerPoints. So we're testing your comprehension here. And we'll do a series of multiple choice questions like we have in the previous presentations. Please pause the video at any time if you feel you need more time to consider the question, okay, before choosing your best one. So have a piece of paper and pen handy for note-taking or for jotting down your answers, whatever is easier for you. After the question is given, I'll give you a few minutes to answer it, and then I will proceed to answer it. Be sure that if it's not enough time for you to look over the question, pause your video and then join up when you can. So let's begin with question 1. Phonological awareness is concerned with the letters that you are seeing as well as the sounds you are hearing. Phonological awareness is concerned with the letters you are seeing and the sounds you are hearing. Is this true or false? And if you answered false, you're absolutely correct. Phonological awareness is concerned with the sound only. We have not been introduced to the letters of the alphabet yet for that reason. We are focusing only on sound. Any written representation that you might see in phonological awareness will be phonetic symbols and phonetic notations. These are internationally used. They come from the International Phonetic Association, and they do not belong exclusively to English. So what you see is phonetic symbols and phonetic notations when we're talking about phonological awareness, not letters. The answer is false because we're only concerned about the sound. Let's move on to number 2. Phonological awareness helps us to recognize and use phonemes and phoneme combinations. Phonological awareness helps us to recognize and use phonemes and phoneme combinations. Is that true or false? I'll repeat it again. Phonological awareness helps us to recognize and use phonemes and phoneme combinations. True or false? And the answer to number 2 is true. Yes, phonological awareness is all about recognizing and using phonemes, and more specifically, phonemic combinations. Let's move on to number 3. The process of encoding words, encoding, is all about building from the phoneme to the phoneme combination, to the word part, to the word, etc., etc. The process of encoding words is all about building from the phoneme to the phoneme combination, to the word part, to the word. Is that true or false? There is a key word in that statement, building. Encoding is building. Remember your hammer symbol? You will often see a hammer when I'm talking about encoding or building. So encoding is building words. We build from the brick, the phoneme, to the phonemic combination, the brick wall, to consonants and vowel sounds. And from there we move to building the syllable or the word room in their apartment, and from there to the entire word or the entire apartment. Encoding is building. Let's move on to number 4. The process of breaking down words to their phonemes and from there getting the meaning of the word is called. The process of breaking down words to their phonemes and from there getting the meaning of the word, this is called A, encoding, B, decoding, C, defining, or D, spelling. A, encoding, B, decoding, C, defining, or D, spelling. The process of breaking down words to their phonemes and from there getting the meaning of the word is called A, encoding, B, decoding, C, defining, or D, spelling. If you got B, decoding, you're absolutely right. A, encoding, is building of words from their phonemes. When we break down the entire meaning of message to get to the basic unit, the phoneme, it is decoding. Defining is simply meaning telling the meaning of the word, and D is spelling, which we have not even talked about yet. So the correct answer for 4 is B, decoding. Let's move on to number 5. Words can be encoded or decoded using onset and rhyme or by using the beginning, middle, and encoding approach. Words can be encoded or decoded by using onset and rhyme or by using the beginning, middle, and ending approach. Is that true or B, false? Words can be encoded or decoded using onset and rhyme or by using the beginning, middle, and ending approach. True or false? If you said A, true, you are absolutely right. When we are encoding or decoding, we first of all need to break the word down into its syllables. Now, some words only have one syllable, so we don't have to break them down. When we're dealing with one-syllable words, we can either do 2 processes. We can look at the word from its onset and rhyme, the onset being those consonant sounds that begin the word or word part, and the rhyme being the ending consonant sounds together with the vowel sound. Or we can go beginning, middle, and end, starting with the beginning consonant, working or using or either breaking down or using the middle vowel sound, and then moving on to the ending sound. So we can do that either way. One-syllable words are often seen in multi-syllable words as one syllable. So when it comes to one-syllable words, we focus on onset and rhyme, but most other words, and the approach I like to use is breaking the word down into syllables and taking each syllable and using the beginning, middle, and ending approach. The answer to number 5 was true. Number 6, onsets contain a vowel sound. Onsets contain a vowel sound. Is that true or false? If you said false, you are absolutely correct. Onsets are the beginning consonant sounds, okay? They do not have a vowel sound. The rhyme has the vowel sound and the ending consonant sound. So the rhyme is in the vowel sound is in the rhyme, not the onset. Let's move on. So we're moving on. Question number 7. Onset and rhyme combine to make word or syllables. Onset and rhyme combine to make words or syllables. Is this true or false? The answer is true. Onset and rhyme can form a syllable or they can make up a word. Onset are the beginning consonants, rhyme is the vowel sound and the ending consonants. Remember that a syllable or a one-syllable word must contain a vowel sound, but it doesn't have to contain a consonant sound at the beginning or a consonant sound at the end. Let's move on to number 8. Repeated onset makes rhyme. Repeated onset makes rhyme. Is this true or false? This is false. Repeated onset, if we repeat those consonant sounds at the beginning of a word, we are actually making something called alliteration. Alliteration. Rhyme, R-I-M-E, is the vowel sound and the ending sound. It is that makes the rhyme, R-H-Y-M-E. Let's move on to number 9. What is created by repeating the beginning consonant sounds in a passage? What is created by repeating the beginning consonant sounds in a passage? Is it rhyme? A. Is it B, alliteration? Well, I guess that's it. Which one is it? Rhyme or alliteration? Right. It's alliteration. The beginning consonant sounds, when they're repeated, is alliteration. When the ending or the rhymes, R-I-M-E, are repeated, it is rhyme. Let's move on to number 10. The following is true about rhymes. They are at the ending of a word or word part. They contain a vowel sound. They help to create rhyme. All of the above. The following is true about rhymes. They are at the ending of a word or word part. They contain a vowel sound. They help to create rhyme. Great job. Yes, all the above. Okay, as we've discussed. Rhymes are at the ending of a word or word part. They contain a vowel sound and they help to create rhyme. Let's move on to number 11. In order to be a syllable, the word part must contain a vowel sound. In order to be a syllable, the word part must contain a vowel sound. Is that true or false? Great job again. Yes, that is true. In order to be a syllable, the word part must contain a vowel sound. Last question for comprehension. Number 12. In order to be a syllable, the word part must contain a consonant. In order to be a syllable, the word part must contain a consonant. Is that true or false? Great. The answer is True. False, sorry. We do not need to have a consonant at the beginning of a vowel sound or at the end of a vowel sound in a syllable. And some words, like only contain the vowel sound. So the answer to that is false. Very good. So we're going to do a little practical work here. We're going to listen. So it's very, very important that you listen to me before we proceed with the questioning, okay? What sounds are you hearing repeated in the following, okay? Listen, 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 because phonological awareness is all about the sound. I will recite it, just listen. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? I'm not going to ask you to recite that right away. If that's the first time hearing that, it would be challenging. So I'm moving it on. I want you to be listening. Are we only hearing alliteration? Remember what alliteration is. It is a repetition of onset, the beginning consonant sounds in words. So are we only hearing that in this, or are you hearing the repetition of other sounds, namely rhyme sounds? So listen very closely again. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? So we're hearing definitely some alliteration, but we're also hearing repetition of rhyme, are we not? Okay. Now I want you to listen again and see if you can count how many times you hear this sound at the onset, okay? And just listen. How, and the sound, that's the ch sound, okay? That's the phonetic symbol for ch, 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 ch. So you're listening for how many times you hear this at the beginning of the words. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Let's try that again. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? How many times did you count? Should have been 4 times in alliteration. And did you hear it in any of the rhymes? Let's try that again. So now you're listening for that in the ending sound of words. So we heard it 4 times at the beginning of chuck, 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 chuck 4 times. Now we're going to see if we can hear it at the end of something. So I'm going to say it again. Listen for that ch sound at the end of a word. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? How much? Ch. Right, so the word much has that ch sound. So we heard that ch sound 5 times in that tongue twister, okay? We heard 4 times in alliteration, meaning we heard it at the beginning of the consonant sounds 4 times, and we heard it at the end of much, okay? So let's move on. How often do you hear the onset, again, the beginning consonant sound, w? So I'm going to try that again. We're listening for w. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Let's try that again. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Have you heard it 4 times? Now let's try the k sound, okay? The onset again, so it's going to begin a word, the onset k, and you're listening for the k. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Let's try that again. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? So it's k, k. What word did you hear that in? That was in the could, and we heard it twice, okay? Could, k, would. The would at the end of it kind of softens the K, so it doesn't sound so harsh. How often do you hear the ud rhyme? Okay, ud. Would. How often do you hear the would? How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? So we hear how much wood, that's 1, could 2, a wood 3, chuck if a would, we hear wood again, that's 4, chuck if a woodchuck could, so we hear it again, chuck wood. So there's 5 times for that would sound. It's in would and could. So it's been repeated 5 times. Now you see the symbol for, it's hard to see, that upside down V and a k sound for K for k. Uck. So let's try that sound. You're listening for that. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck? Twice there. If a woodchuck could chuck wood. So try that again. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck? So you hear uck twice. If a woodchuck, 3 again, could chuck 4 wood. So it's 4 times for that one. And this is what it would look like if we were to put all those colors together, okay? So you see that how much, the ch sound for the green there, the w for the wood for the wood, and could and wood, and we see that repetition of the yellow is that wood sound. The ch sound is a green, so we see that several times in the onset as well as in the rhyme of much. We see the w in wood 4 times because we have would repeated 4 times, and we see the k sound in could twice. Okay, and uck. The rhyme of uck is there 4 times because we repeated chuck 4 times. And was that it? And the wood was the big one, the biggest one, I think, was the yellow. Well, there you go. That was just a little practice with repeated rhyme and hearing what's being said. Now we're just going to tap, clap, or drop the jaw to count the syllables in the following words. I'm going to give you 3 words, and we're going to just take our time with them. And I want you to hear the word. I'm going to show you the phonetic notation only, okay? And then we'll break that phonetic notation down as we sound out the word. So that word right there, that's 3 phonemes in that word. Now we're trying to count how many vowel sounds are there and how many vowel sounds we're hearing, and then we're going to tap or clap out. So I'm going to say the word. It is ship, 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 ship. Try this. Ship. Ship. How many vowel sounds in that word? Right, is there only one? And we're going to look at the phonetic symbol if you see it in the dictionary, because they will break them down. If you see like a period, they'll sometimes put a period or a black dot at the ending of a syllable, or they'll use those stress symbols that we spoke about briefly at the top, like an apostrophe for that. They usually put it in front of the word that's being stressed, or it looks like a comma at the bottom if it's a secondary stress. But we're not going to get into that right now. But just look at that. That's one syllable. All the phonetic symbols are together. Let's try something else. First of all, do you have any idea what that word would be by looking at the phonetic symbols? It's important, 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 important. Now let's sound out we're here and I'm trying to listen for the vowel sounds, okay? Important, 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 important. 3. Okay, let's put our hands underneath our chin and try that. Important, important, important. 3 syllables in important. So we're going to look at how we break that down at phonetic notation in your dictionary. It may look a little something like this. I didn't put the stress symbols in because I really don't want you to get too concerned about it. But you see the period after the M, between the M and the P, between the symbol that's for the and the P symbol, and then we see it after the or symbol, or so we see it there before the T, tent. So it's important, 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 important. Very good. Let's move on to the last word here. Do you know what that is? Okay, I'm going to say it. Intelligent, 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 intelligent. Listen for the vowel sounds. Intelligent, 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 intelligent. 4. Right? Let's try jaw drops. Intelligent, intelligent, intelligent. 4 drops. So we have 4 syllables. Now let's look at how that would look in your dictionary as your phonetic attention. So we don't have a dot after the N. We have the stress symbol, because that stress symbol was on top, meaning that most of the stress of the word is going to fall on tell. We're really going to hear that tell. It's going to be intel. Really focusing on that tell when we're pronouncing it. So that we don't need a dot because that makes the same thing. So we don't have a period between those. We do have a period after that symbol for L and before the I. So that shows that we have a break there in our syllables, okay? So it breaks there as well. Then we have the S sound all by itself. It's an open syllable on both sides. It doesn't have a consonant at the beginning or the end, so it's just I. So we have a dot after I. And then we have the gent. So that D said kind of thing looking symbol, that's a sign for j, remember? Intelligent, intelligent. So that's one phoneme. The D set is one phoneme. And then we have our schwa E, which we don't really hear a big E, we just say eh. And then we have the N and the T. So let's count how many phonemes we had. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 phonemes and 3 syllables because we have 3 vowel sounds. The what looks like an uppercase I is one vowel sound. It's the I again. Then we have that short E that you might find in bed or red in between the T and the L looking characters. Then we have again all by itself. And then we have the schwa e, not really pronounced. So it's just like when we have a schwa e, an upside down e, it means that the sound is not clear. So we don't have a clear e there. So that's intelligent. 4 syllables. Did I say 3? 4 syllables, 10 phonemes. Important, we have 3 syllables, and in ship we have 1. Great job. Now I know that was challenging, but the more you listen and try to break up into syllables in your head by counting jaw drops or claps, the better off you'll be in the long run. Thank you so much. So great job. You did so well to get to this point, and I know it's been challenging so far because we haven't even looked at the Roman or Latin alphabet that we use in English yet, which we are going to do next time. I wanted you to focus on sound because that is the easiest way to learn English as far as I'm concerned. And again, this is the way I see the approach to English, not necessarily how somebody else would. Right now, you may be taking a supplementary English class. You may be learning English in a class setting with other people. Good for you. Or maybe this is the only English language learning you're getting. Please know there are several ways to learn English. My 3B approach is just one way. I believe it to be the best way, taking you back to the very basics of all language, which is sound. So you completed the second P, phonological awareness. And now we're ready to move on to what may be considered a bit more complicated because we're not just bringing our ears with us next time. We're going to be using our eyes so that we can see those letters as we get to know the alphabet inside and out. Thank you so much for joining me, and I do hope you have a very wonderful phonological day.